Philip Ingram. Philip, thank you very much for joining us. This statement, not a surprise, of course. It does indicate he's dead. And, of course, UK intelligence had already reported that they thought that was the case. You can't always trust Russian state news, of course. What's your reading of this?
Well, exactly. Anything that comes out of the Russian state, you have to take with a pinch of salt. But I think there's more than enough evidence now to suggest that Prigozhin and his command group were on that aircraft and has died. I fully expected the Russians to come out with DNA evidence to say that he was on the aircraft. The interesting bit will come whenever they try to explain what brought the aircraft down.
Well, absolutely. The cause of the crash is the next thing we're all waiting for. I don't want you to speculate, but I do want you to speculate. What do you think the Russian sort of official line may be there?
Well, the Russians aren't going to admit to shooting it down, and therefore they're not going to admit to putting a bomb on the aircraft. And therefore, I suspect what they'll try and say it was a terrorist act carried out by those that were supporting the Ukrainians, and they've launched a review of security at the Moscow airport because it's embarrassing if they admit that the Ukrainians got through that. This is almost certainly an assassination by Russian intelligence on someone who's becoming an increasing political opponent to Putin. We've got the Russian presidential elections coming next year, and we've got other regional elections in September this year. So it's a very clear message being sent to anyone who dissents against Vladimir Putin. No, we're safe.
Do you think we'll ever really know what happened here?
I think it's going to be very difficult for us to get the exact truth as to what happened, but bits and pieces will come out over a period of time. The Russians are all about trying to mask things, trying to throw doubt out there, and they've got a doctrine called Maskirovka, which is all about that. And they don't mind if the truth comes out in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months time, because by then everything will have moved on. The news cycles across the globe will have moved on, and Putin can ride any fallout that there is from the international community. Domestically, there's still a lot more to play out on this.
Either way, I guess it does show, doesn't it, as you mentioned earlier, that crossing Vladimir Putin is a very dangerous game to play.
Oh, extremely dangerous. Your aircraft being blown up, falling out a 9th-floor window, deciding to have a heart attack next weekend. These are all the tactics that Vladimir Putin uses to pressurize those that disagree with him.
And it's worth pointing out, as you did, it wasn't just Prigozhin who was on this plane. A lot of his top team were his number 2, who's a greatly feared sort of man with 2 SS tattoos on his neck. He was also on board. So this is really wiping out the top brass of Wagner Group. Yeah,
Dmitry Utkin, who actually founded the Wagner Group, and it was named after him, and Prigozhin was brought in as his financier. He was on it, so they were the top 2, and then Valery Chekalov, who was effectively Wagner's head of logistics. So the whole of the top tier of the Wagner Group has been wiped out. We will now see the rump of it being brought under control of someone that is much closer to Vladimir Putin and to the Russian state central.